Missouri versus Alabama. What makes this an intriguing game is that we don't know what the hell to make of either of these two teams. Missouri was supposed to be a lock to be a playoff team this year, potentially a dark horse to win the SEC with how favorable their schedule looked coming in, but they got stumped by Texas A&M on the road a few weeks ago, and they struggled to beat Auburn last week, and they are coming off one of the best seasons in program history. So you still have people who are wondering just how good is Mizzou? Where this game is going to give us the answer to that, because right now you're going up against an Alabama team where we don't really know how good this team is either. Either you feel that this team is the team that we saw in the second half against Georgia that has since then declined every single game. They've seemed to have gotten worse. Or you believe that the version of Alabama that we saw prior to the second half against Georgia that destroyed Wisconsin on the road, it's the same team. It's just that they are somewhat in a slump right now. We're going to find out a lot about these two teams in this game, because whoever loses, their playoff hopes are pretty much done. This is survive and advance. And the winner, they keep their playoff hopes alive, because with a win, Alabama, if they win out, they got a 98% chance of reaching the college football playoffs, even if they don't win or make it to the SEC title game. But if they lose, their playoff chances are pretty much all but over. And same thing for Missouri. You can't lose this game. A loss ends your playoff hopes with you already losing the Texas A&M. Plus, you suffer your second conference loss. This would be Alabama's third conference loss. So this is a must-win game for both of these teams when we're talking about the possibility of one of these foes making it into the playoffs this year. Now, when it comes to the game itself, Alabama's a 13.5-point favorite in this game. I'm obviously taking Missouri to cover that, because you can't watch Alabama and how they've played the last couple of weeks and possibly be bold enough to take them to win this game by double digits, because I don't know how good this team is, and we don't know how good this team is. If this was the same team that we saw against Wisconsin, then hell yeah, I love them minus 13.5. But I don't really know if Alabama can beat anybody right now. Truthfully, they probably should have lost to South Carolina with the way that game played out. And Jalen Milroe, is it over for this dude? Because this man went from looking like the Heisman frontrunner to looking like a lock to be a first-round pick, to all of a sudden, not only looking like one of the worst quarterbacks in the SEC, but there also is some chatter around this dude being benched, man, because his decision-making, his accuracy has sucked these past couple of games. And against Missouri, their defense is a huge question mark. And that's the reason why I wasn't high on Mizzou being a playoff team coming into this year, because they lost their defensive coordinator to LSU, and plus they lost a good amount of talent on that side of football. And I still don't have the answers to the questions that I had about Missouri's defense, because against Texas A&M, I wanted to see how good they were going to look, and Texas A&M dropped the 40 burger on them. And Jalen Milroe, this is probably going to be the worst defense that he's going to play this month, because next week you got to play LSU. Missouri, we don't know what they expect from their defense. If their defense is as good as what Mizzou fans hoped it would be coming into this season, then we once again could see Jalen Milroe struggle. But if this is a Missouri defense that has truly dropped off this year compared to how well they played on that side of the football last year, Alabama's offense should be able to get right in this game. You got a lot of firepower at receiver, contrary to what Jalen Milroe was showing last week when he was targeting Ryan Williams on pretty much every single play. The dude had 20 targets. Alabama has more than just one wide receiver that's actually good. They got a lot of talent in that wide receiver room. Jalen Milroe just has to throw the football their way. He also got some really good running backs. I love Jam Miller. I thought that he would have a big season, but so far up to this point, Alabama doesn't really care to make the run game a focal point with how much they're asking Jalen Milroe to throw the football. So if Missouri's defense is somewhat good, Alabama's offense could continue to have the same struggles that we've seen them have the last couple of weeks. Since the second half against that Georgia game, they've struggled with decision making from Jalen Milroe. The offensive line hasn't been that good. If Missouri has a somewhat decent defense, this could be a tough day for Alabama offensively. Now, when you reverse this and you talk about Missouri's offense compared to Alabama's defense, you got the same question about Brady Cook that you have with Jalen Milroe. Coming into this season, the only difference is nobody thought Brady Cook was going to be a Heisman contender, and most Missouri fans know what they're getting out of Brady Cook. When this dude is on, he's a really good dual threat quarterback, has really good wills, can extend plays, kill you on the ground as well if you give him a little bit of too much green grass to work with. And he has some fantastic wide receivers. Theo Weiss, Luther Burden, they're one of the best wide receiver duos in all of college football. But the problem with Brady Cook is that he has the same issues that Jalen Milroe has been dealing with these last couple of weeks. He's struggling with accuracy and decision making. And he got injured against Auburn. He came back, and it was admirable. He led Missouri to a comeback win, but the dude hasn't completed over 50% of his passes in two of Missouri's biggest games, last week against Auburn and when they got blown out by Texas A&M. And I know that Alabama's defense has struggled, but last week against Tennessee, they had a really good game. As a matter of fact, their defense gave them a chance to win it, but the offense wasn't able to do anything. So if Alabama's defense truly has turned the corner and they have started to figure things out on that side of the football, then Brady Cook could be cooked again this week, because regardless of how favorable the matchup looks between Missouri's wide receivers with Burden and Weiss and the damage that they could do to an Alabama secondary that has struggled mightily all this season, it really is going to come down to if Brady Cook can actually get him the ball, because they do have a veteran offensive line. And really, if Brady Cook has one of those games where, he's just on, Missouri probably wins this game. But the thing with Brady Cook is that he's not a reliable passer. He's not consistent throwing the football. And if you're struggling to throw the football with accuracy against Auburn and A&M, how can I expect you to just all of a sudden light this Alabama defense on fire when you haven't lightened up any defense that you played on your schedule that's been remotely as talented as what Alabama has on that side of the football? And the thing about Missouri is that you put this team in trouble when they can't run the football. When you force this team to have to rely on Brady Cook's arm to win it, that's when they lose, because Brady Cook is not a dependable quarterback. He's only good when you got the run game to complement him. And there's a good chance that Missouri can get their rushing attack going because they got two really good running backs. And with Alabama's rushing attack, not really doing that much, it makes it a game where Alabama kind of needs more out of their quarterback than what Missouri does. Missouri doesn't need a Heisman day out of Brady Cook to win this thing. They just need him to be good enough as long as that run game gets going. And if Alabama's defense, which the last couple of games, they haven't really been that good. I thought they would be pretty decent against South Carolina, but if you're getting carved up by Lenore Sellers and Rocket Sanders, then I'm going to have a hard time believing that you can just shut down Brady Cook and Missouri's offense. And you got an Alabama run defense that is 56 in college football. They are surrendering 141.3 rushing yards per game. So this is definitely a matchup that Missouri can get that ground game going. And when they do, it can open things up for Brady Cook in that passing attack, because Brady Cook is good when you're only asking him to throw the football 20, 24 times a game. But when you're asking him to have to carry you to a win and he's throwing it 30, 40 plus, you get in trouble. Now, the team I'm going to take the win is Alabama. I'm not going to take them to cover, though. I think it's a little bit foolish to take them with that minus 13.5. But I do love them to win this game outright, because Kalen DeBoer, I still believe that this dude is an elite head coach. I don't believe that the struggles that Alabama has had these last couple of weeks is definitive to what this dude is going to be for the foreseeable future as the head man down there in Tuscaloosa. The dude at Washington beat Dan Lanning twice, beat Steve Sarkisian, and recently beat Kirby Smart this year. We tend to overlook that Alabama did beat Georgia, although it was ugly how they ended things off in the second half. That still counts as a win in the W column for them, and you have to give Kalen DeBoer that respect, getting a massive win over what most of us agree is the best coach in college football. So Kalen DeBoer has shown that in the past, he's won everywhere he's been. He knows how to make adjustments. He knows what it takes to win. And I think that the coaching advantage in this game favors Alabama compared to what's going on with Eli Drinkwitz and his staff, because when we saw them against A&M this year, they got outclassed. We haven't seen a game where Alabama has been outclassed at all, probably outside of Vandy. And Vandy looks like a pretty good team because they got the same record as Alabama right now, and they are ranked inside of the top 25. And we're going to see how good they are against Texas this week. But Vandy has shown that they're not just your average Vanderbilt team. They have the capability to be one of the best teams in the SEC this year. So Kalen DeBoer, it's hard for me to see him getting outcoached by Eli Drinkwitz. And I do expect Jalen Milroe to bounce back in this game. He may be a little bit dinged up, but I don't think Missouri's defense is that good. And with how effortlessly Texas A&M was able to drive the football up and down the field against Mizzou's defense, I'm willing to bet that this side of the football for Missouri severely dropped off from what we saw out of them last year. So give me Alabama with the win. I'm going to go 27-20 as the final score. This definitely will be a tight game because I just think that a lot of games in the SEC are going to be tightly contested. But with how Alabama has played, I can't trust them to cover that 13.5. So I'm going to take Missouri to cover. I like Alabama to win outright.